there you go.
All right, now you're ready?
I'm ready. Let's go. Welcome back.
All right, welcome, my brothers and sisters, to Two Old Goats. Let's get uncomfortable.
It's been uncomfortable all week.
It's been very uncomfortable here in Houston.
Yeah, that little hurricane we had and power outage, and some of us. Did you turn your thermostat up in solidarity?
Not this time. I did not.
It was too damn hot.
But it flickered on and off.
It was too hot, man. Yeah. It was hot. So the day after the storm went through that night, it was nice and cool. It was in the low 70s. Mm-hmm. I slept great. The next day it was hot and humid.
Next day it was heat warnings.
Yeah. There you go. Well, good. Well, this kind of comes from last night. What I wanted to see if you want to talk about it.
Okay.
And I don't know how into it we'll get, but we were talking when we had our meeting last night. Since our regular place was closed, we just kind of had our own little meeting with a bunch of the guys, and I was listening to them talk and what they were talking about, and kind of where they are in their lives, and so to speak, or what they're struggling with.
Right.
And it kind of started occurring to me as like I could see little pictures over their head. It was weird, not real pictures, but
right. No, I understand.
I don't want you to think I'm going crazy. That's how I knew Steve was getting bad. But anyway, it was like I could see, I don't know if I don't hear anybody talk about this anymore, but at one time it was something we talked about, and I think it is something that's real. And John Eldridge talks about it in his book Wild at Heart, which became pretty popular. A lot of churches and religion. It is have some Bible stuff in it and all that, but it's not about religion as much as you think it is, as it seems. But
right.
But anyway, one of the things he talks about is the wound.
Okay.
Like men have this wound, and what is it? I'll just kind of read. He kind of defines it here. This is from his, right out of his book, page 60. Every boy in his journey to become a man takes an arrow to the center of his heart in the place of his strength. Because the wound is rarely discussed and even more rarely healed, every man carries a wound, and the wound is nearly always given by his father. So that's kind of the wound we're talking about. I don't know that it's always, I don't think it's always given by the father. I think, some guys are raised by their mom, and one of the strongest, bravest ladies I knew was one of my best friends growing up, mother. Her name's Barbara Fisher, and she was raising 4 boys, and the oldest was a daughter, and her daughter was a knockout. She was the problem. So that was the strongest woman I ever met, and she raised those boys, and they worked, and they learned, they also had a community of men around them, so they kind of learned from the community. But I think sometimes it does come from the mom, or the mom hanging on, or,
right.
My baby,
Well, the absence of the father is the wound.
That's it.
So
that's a big one.
When the mother, because truthfully, I mean, yes, the mother can give wounds, but the wound that a son receives from the father is supposed to be the deepest.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's supposed to be your mentor, your guide, your protector, everything is, as a child, you want to be like your father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's real or fabricated. Right. For myself, I didn't grow up with a father.
Right.
For many, many years. And so I did fabricate what a father was supposed to be.
Right.
Then, I did eventually get a stepfather. He didn't line up well with my imaginary father.
Right.
So there was a wound, and I never talked about it. No one ever brought it up.
Right. That's kind of one of the points I want to get to, and we can talk about it whenever it comes up. But I kind of made notes is that our our culture basically teaches us to ignore it or to, get over it. Suck it up, buttercup.
But I agree with you, and I disagree. I don't think when we grew up, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even some into the 90s.
Yeah, I was
Yes, it
80s.
was suck it up. You got time for that shit. You got to get busy, right?
Was it the time, or was that our time of life? Like we were younger men.
I think it was just that time, that time frame.
Yeah.
You talk to most people, the people that grew up during the Depression, they're after that, those kids that were raised by the people that were in the Depression, and it just it was about just staying busy. You don't have time to sit there and lick your wounds and all that shit. It's because if you don't work, you don't eat.
Right.
Life was a little bit more difficult, a little bit more simple back then, and it was get busy, which, come to find out, is the answer.
Right.
But nowadays, going into the 2000s and where we're at now, what I've discovered with that wound, another fancy word for wound is triggers, right?
Okay. For now,
I'm talking about where they're at now.
Okay.
Right? They don't want to look at the wound either. They want, or even if they do look at the wound.
Well, nobody wants to look at it because there's pain there.
I want to look at it.
Well,
I'm tired of fucking hurting, man.
You're special.
I am special. But it's, so even if they locate the wound, they acknowledge the wound, whatever it may be, right? Today, it's about pills, potions, and lotions. It's not about solutions. It's not about getting busy. I've had multiple conversations with people with they're like, well, this is my wound, or this is my whatever it is. And they stop.
Mm-hmm.
I am the way I am because of XYZ.
Right.
And they stop.
Right. Exactly.
Why do they stop?
Well, that's kind of where I'm going with this. Okay. Is the wound, for whatever reason, whether it's our culture tells us to ignore it and we don't deal with it, or it's too painful, or whatever. A lot of times we don't even know. I mean, we were told so early on, just forget about it. And so, if there's one that something you don't know about or you don't remember, you haven't healed that or you haven't worked with that. And I think kind of where this was coming from was while I was thinking that and seeing these guys, thinking, I wonder if they know about this, or if anyone's ever talked to them about it. Because if I look at their personalities too, a lot of them show some of the Eldridge talks about guys that haven't dealt with their wound. A lot of times they come as posers, like they drive the big mud tire truck and the all the guys at the gym, all the jacked up trucks with the lights under, and
the overcompensation.
Right.
The goatee and the hat backwards, which pissed me off because I was wearing my hat backwards while I was reading that fucking part.
Right. The boy that doesn't want to quite be a man yet.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of where I was going with all this. I know when we had just talked about inventory, and when we do that process and the the work that comes after that, maybe you stumble across it. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have. I know you and I, we got to it real specific.
Yeah.
And I had to get to it specifically in my journey. And here's another crazy thing too I was thinking about on the way over here. We recovered or whatever from whatever we're struggling with, and we overcome this wound or whatever. But if we fall back into our old ways, old habits, I think that could probably come back just like,
absolutely,
an addiction or something.
Well, it becomes the excuse.
Yeah.
So it just goes right back to it.
Yeah.
Because our program teaches us that we have to have a sufficient substitute. Because there's a wound there.
Mm-hmm.
You've been hit with an arrow. The wound's going to be there.
Yeah.
Now you can put a solution in that wound, and you're going to be okay because there's action to it. The moment you remove that solution,
Right.
the wound is open again.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
So as long as you continue with your solution, the action part of it, you should be okay.
Right.
I believe.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Well, I think, the way Eldridge describes it in here, I'll read this real quick because it just kind of tells us like our number one question from, and a lot of it comes from the wound. Now we're hurt or we're whatever. We grow up with this wound, or I don't know what else to call it. Something happened to us that, changed our lives or whatever, or the way we felt or think. But anyway, for men, the question becomes, he always talks about, do I have what it takes? Am I enough?
Right.
Man, I was seeing that last night, big time.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's kind of what I was like. I thought these guys, not that they would be past it. It was just that I haven't had that thought in a long time. And I was like, oh, this is strange. I haven't, been down this road in quite a while.
Right.
Where it was so blatant to me.
Right.
So I don't know. And maybe the way this usually works is I'm looking at them, but it's really, I'm looking in the mirror.
Right.
Because it's pointing back at me. And maybe I need to get with it. But here's what Eldridge says about the question. Here's the question. Do I have what it takes? Am I powerful? Until a man knows he's a man, he will forever be trying to prove he is one. Well, that's where the posers come from.
Yep.
Well, and it's those solutions from the outside, and it's the posers are, it's about what I look like on the outside to everybody else. So, well, at the same time, wait a minute. Until a man knows he's a man, he will forever be trying to prove he's one, while at the same time shrink away from anything that might reveal he is not. So afraid of failure, fear of failure.
Yeah.
Most men live their lives haunted by the question or crippled by the answer they've been given.
Right. Well, and that's why I truly do believe, and we've talked about this before, that, we'll get groups going with us. They start getting good and we're getting going.
Yeah. They will get 6 or 8 or 10 guys.
Yeah. And then they find out that, oh shit, these guys are for real. Like they're going to go do some shit.
They're going to do this.
And next thing you know, they stop coming.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think too, a lot of their pain went away. So
absolutely.
So they, they weren't seeking so hard.
I think for me, the wound, that book played a very intricate part in my growth as a masculine man.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have that growing up. I'm not saying that there weren't men in my life, right, that taught me how to chew tobacco and spit, and clean a fish and stuff like that.
Well, you had a favorite. Was that an uncle?
Uncle.
Yeah.
My Uncle Mike. He taught me how to ride a motorcycle and taught me how to fight and stuff like that. But I still was missing that entry level, or that entry into manhood.
Right.
Right. Because when I was
the answer to the question.
Yeah, I was always missing that. Because I was always little Tommy. So I never got introduced into manhood. Oh, you're a man now.
Right.
Because my uncle passed away before I became a man. So he never gave me that, or he never had the opportunity to invite me.
Yeah. And a lot of times that's what happens. That's the wound.
It is.
The dad or the, male figure in the family that was the granddad or whatever passed away before it was passed on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my stepfather, he did the best that he could with what he had. And the greatest thing that he ever did for me was kick me out.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be a man? Go be a fucking man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had no clue where the fuck I was going, how I was going to do it or anything, but it was a great opportunity for me to start my journey.
Right.
As long and painful and joyful, there was a lot of good times that I had.
Yeah. If it
But-
wasn't fun, we wouldn't have kept doing it. I
Right.
mean, we did it hard for a long time. There was some fun involved.
But the truth was, I was slowly dying on the inside of that quiet desperation.
Right.
Right? Am I man enough? Do I have what it takes? Nobody's ever told me except for myself. You know,
Right.
I'm the motherfucking man.
Right.
You know, and that's where
We're gonna have. Can we get this on video?
No, we
and we'll
do.
do a short of it. The actual,
yeah.
the rest of this. We'll do now for the rest of the
No,
story.
for the rest, not today. Not today, Satan. But it wasn't until I reached a pinnacle point, going through the program, doing the steps, reading a lot of these great books. This book specifically got me back out in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where I could go out there, and I freaking tortured myself to the point where when I came out, I knew I had it. I knew I was enough.
Yeah.
And I heard it from my internal father.
Right.
That you are. You got
And
it.
that's one of the big things Eldridge talks about is ultimately we get our name, we get our passage from the true Father,
Mhm.
the higher power, the Spirit, whatever you want to call it for you. But that's what gets you out. Like you said, it gets you to go out in the wilderness and stuff.
Mhm.
All the men, especially in the Bible, but most of the men in early times, they were out alone
Right.
in wilderness, or Jesus kept going away to go pray or get away from everybody for a little bit, and that's where he would make his connection with God. So yeah, good stuff. It's kind of, he wrote some stuff here. We were talking about our culture blocking it. This is where our sin and our culture have come together to keep us in bondage and brokenness. We talk about that bondage itself quite a bit.
Yeah.
To prevent the healing of our wound. Our sin is the stubborn part inside that wants, above all else, to be independent. We want to be God.
Right.
There's a part of us fiercely committed to living in a way where we do not have to depend on anyone, especially God. Then culture comes along with figures like John Wayne, James Bond, and all those, quote, real men. The one thing they have in common is they are loners. They do not need anyone. We come to believe deep in our hearts that needing anyone for anything is a sort of weakness, a handicap. This is why men never ever stop to ask for direction. Directions, I'm notorious for this, blah, blah, blah. He talks about Jesus has a different idea. He's not embarrassed about it. He knows nothing of that. The man who never flinched to take on hypocrites and get in their face, the one who drove 100 men with a bundle of cords swung free, the master of wind and sea, lived in desperate dependence on his Father. I assure you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He does only what he sees the Father doing. I live by the power of the living Father who sent me. So he's basically bragging that he's dependent on God. And we, in our culture, push us the other way.
Right.
To be, I understand being independent and coming out of, like you said, every country's been through stuff. And there's times where, different parts of the earth go through depression, whatever country you're in.
Right.
I guess countries are like people. They're either in crisis, coming out of crisis, or headed for crisis.
Exactly.
So,
well, I agree and I disagree with the whole, needing others. I truly believe that we're not put on this earth to be by ourselves. I know that for a fact. And I'm not just talking about your life partner, your significant other, wife, husband. I'm talking about a small group of people that can hold you accountable and you hold them accountable. That type of group, right?
mm-hmm.
I do believe that we're supposed to be that way. But the one part in there when he's talking about asking directions, if you keep reading in that chapter, he talks about the 3 desires of a man.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a fucking adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't that awesome that you get lost and don't ask directions? Let's have an adventure.
Right. It's an adventure.
right? That's how I taught my family. Let's just go have an adventure.
Right.
You know?
I was gonna look for that, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah. So I think, yes, I agree that some of them are just about, I don't want to ask for help, because it shows I'm a weak person. But there is a part of it is the adventure part, man. That's gonna be kind of exciting.
Or I can figure it out.
Right. Challenge accepted. Let's do this shit.
Yeah.
And I think men should be encouraged to do that. Here lately I've been talking to, like, when I leave a office building, a meeting or whatever, somebody will say, be safe, drive safe. Right. And I stop in my tracks and I turn around, I go, why did you say that?
Right.
Well, it's dangerous out there. I go, then why don't you tell me to be dangerous?
Right.
Meet them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous means dangerous,
Right.
I don't want to be safe.
Right. Well,
I have no desire to be safe.
I mean, actually, that's what we're designed for, is to be a warrior.
Right.
After, our lineage, God, Jesus, the whole thing. We're designed after that to be a warrior. And guess what? The world is safer now than it's ever been.
Right. It's hard to be dangerous.
It's hard to be dangerous now. I mean, it's, half the BS is they're trying to protect us from ourselves most of the time, which is...
I agree. And I think our partners want that too, and our friends want that too. I'll give you a good example. So typically I drive slow. Mm-hmm. I'm not in a rush, ever. I just go. I leave early enough. I get where I need to get to. If I don't get there on time, it's okay. I got there right when I was supposed to.
Right.
I have no problems with it. I've just totally accepted it. That's why I have no issues in traffic whatsoever.
Right.
Ever. Right. Okay. So my wife, when she drives with me, and I'm doing probably 5 minutes below the speed, 5 miles below the speed limit or at speed limit, she's on her phone, doesn't really talk to me. Just a mundane opportunity or moment, right? Now, when I kick it into gear and I'm going in and out of traffic and I'm hightailing, that engine's revving, she's smiling over there.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, oh my, and I'm like, all right. Because she's attracted to that. She wants to be part of the adventure. Let's go have some fun.
Right.
And I enjoy those moments.
Okay.
I enjoy those. Same thing with my friends, We're out doing some normal stuff and we go, fuck it, let's go do something. Let's get crazy. And it could be off the wall shit, and we go. I remember there was a group of guys, it was probably a couple years ago, where we'd call each other or text each other at like 9:00 at night, golf course, barefoot, and we'd go.
Yeah.
Man, that was exciting.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knew what we were going to do?
Yeah, run through the stickers in the golf course.
Right? So, I don't know.
I bet you won't run through that patch over there where all the snakes and the stickers and the weeds are.
That's right.
I bet I will.
Bet I will. Absolutely. Or like when my son was dared me to go barefoot up there on that rocky trail.
Yeah, that wasn't gravel either. That was
rocks.
Broken caliche rock.
Yeah.
That sucked.
Yeah, but he dared me and I did it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that's what it is. And talking,
so you're part of the problem on the...
I'm not part. I'm part of the solution.
Hiding the wound.
No, that's not it, man. I think because I don't feel the wound when I'm living.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm not living is when I feel the wound.
Yeah.
When I feel the depression, the anxiety, the oh woe is me, oh my childhood, oh this, oh that. But when I'm living, man, that's the way we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And tapping into that higher power is key. It's key. You can, whatever you want to call it, God, higher power, whatever it is, when you tap into that, man, it's great.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention that, because here's what Elders has to say about that. From the very beginning, back before the fall of our salt, ours was meant to be a desperately dependent existence. Like a tree and its branches, explains Christ. You are the branches, I am the trunk. From me you draw your life, that's how it was meant to be. In fact, he goes on to say, apart from me, you can do nothing. That's John 15:5. He's not berating us or mocking us or even saying it with a sigh, all the while thinking, I wish they'd pull it together and stop needing me so much. Not at all. We're all made to depend on God. We are made for union with Him, and nothing about us works right without it. C.S. Lewis wrote, a car is made to run on gasoline, and it would not run properly on anything else. Now God designed the human machine to run on Himself. He Himself is the fuel our spirits were designed to burn, or the food our spirits were designed to feed on. There is no other.
Okay.
So basically, the spirit in us,
Mm-hmm.
that's the fuel.
It is.
That connection, that, and we see it all the time when people recover from, desperate times. Usually within a few months, they can make that connection, and the way they walk changes.
Right.
Everything changes.
I completely agree.
And that's because they made the connection. And there you go. They're living. It's a different life already.
Right.
So anyway, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and I know what you're
fuel.
talking about. I know there's a few guys in that group. They were invited into manhood. There were a few that are missing their fathers, or even if their father was there, it was really not the inviting type of father.
Yeah.
It's more of the distant, go figure it out, kid.
Yeah.
Type of father.
Oh yeah.
But there is a lot of fatherlessness going on. And you can clearly see it in the way that they overcompensate on things.
Yeah.
Either it be by the way they speak and communicate with others, or by some of the actions that they do, just trying to get that attention of, am I man enough, right? And it's sad, but at the same time, I know I've been there. I'm still there once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doubting that. There's still times when I question it.
Yeah. When we kind of fall back into it, or
yeah,
I do. That's kind of what I was thinking. That was my caution about. Oh shit! Am I looking in the mirror here?
There's a good possibility. I think it's the ebbs and the flows. I think sometimes when challenges come, right away the beast is telling you to, oh, woe is you, and you're not man enough, you're not strong enough. That's why you're in this situation. It's because of you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where, as long as we surround ourselves with like-minded people that constantly are seeking, right? That's the key, the seeking.
The seeking, yeah.
Right? Reading, books like John Eldridge, and the one that we're currently reading, Can't Hurt Me. I ain't going to say Iron John.
You're not going for Iron John?
The first part of Iron John, there's a lot of good stuff.
Oh, Robert Bly?
Yeah.
There's a picture of him. He's a good guy.
He looks familiar.
Yeah. No, it starts out real strong. It's good, and then it kind of gets. Oh shit! There's my Powerball ticket.
Did you win?
I don't know. I never turned it in. Oh, wonder what the date is. I don't see the date. January 6th, 2016.
Yeah, I think
8 years ago.
I think you missed it.
I'm out of date. Oh well. Dang it. Could have been a millionaire.
Right.
So cool. Well,
I think the more important thing is, we already acknowledged everybody has wounds. So what's our part? I think that's a good question. What's our part when we witness, when we recognize that this person's living with that open wound, and they're seeking, am I man enough? Am I enough? What's our part?
Well, I think initially our part is to, get to know them and find out where they are first of all, and then, lead them to this or through it. Lead them. They may not even, like I said, I don't know that any of them have ever thought that way or heard that, but they were definitely saying the words.
Yeah.
One guy was talking about his father lived across the street.
Right.
And he never saw him. or hung out with them or anything.
Well, he knew the answer was there, and he didn't want the answer.
Yeah, he knew the answer was
Right.
there. Yeah. So, I think that's what we need to do is, that's part of our group too, is if you hang around long enough, we're going to get you through the basics, right? And you're going to start helping other guys or other people. And then we're going to kind of get you into some of this other stuff,
right,
where you start learning more about it. But I think our job is to, be their brother and, guide them through this. Say, hey, you may want to look at this.
right.
I don't know.
I agree.
But
I think it's the inviting.
Yeah.
Our job is to invite.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they want to hang out, or they're attracted to us for whatever reason. I think that's the opportunity, and we can't miss that opportunity of, hey, you're here for a reason. You want to go do something.
Right.
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 And see how far we can take it, and like Donald S. used to say, just crack his heart a little bit more.
Yeah.
And see what comes about. Show them the answers. Show them that there is a power greater than ourselves that can restore us. Can take care of that wound, that can fill that wound up pretty quick. And man, the whole life experience just flips on end. Everything that was up is now down. Everything is down is up. I mean, it's just complete inside out life, right? And it truthfully did change my life. That, of course, working the program first, but then reading John Eldredge. And that's what initially got me out of the woods.
Right.
And I was not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
I got my ass whooped, right?
That's what was supposed to happen.
But then just a whole fountain of new ideas and wanting to challenge myself and wanting to live and go do this and go do that, man. My whole life changed.
Yeah.
I started really living for the first time.
Yeah. No, I remember.
Yeah.
I got to be a part of that.
Right. And, rather than responding to circumstances, I'm creating my own circumstances.
Okay.
Now I'm not responding to them, I'm creating them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother world.
Mm-hmm. It is a whole nother world. It's a mindset. I mean, it's the attitude. It's the psychic change.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of those things. I wanted to read this part that he wrote here too, because, I mean, ultimately what happens, and you're saying, what do we do with these guys? Well, we get them through it. We, Eldredge uses a lot of, he's like a psychiatrist, preacher guy. So he gets into a lot of that stuff. But basically, we get with them, we invite them into it, we explore the wound with them and actually face it and, hopefully lead them to, recover from that and to grow from it. Because what happens, it's the same thing that happens with us. So we have this wound that doesn't get healed or whatever. And it's typically happens with everybody. And then eventually it drives us to not be in alignment because we're trying to play God. Right. And we're on our own schedule until, our boat runs aground.
Right.
Or the storm comes and, life beats us down. What does it say? Beats us into a state of reasonableness.
Right.
And so breaks us. And, when we get broken like that, that's when we're most open up.
Right.
That's kind of when God can come in.
Yeah, you have to break that ego open.
Right.
Get inside there.
Right. And but I like this take because I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but I read it last night. But this is Eldredge, and he's talking about it's like our program. What happens is whatever our addiction or whatever we recovered from, well, our bad experience becomes our strength. Well, the way he words it, he says, out of our wound comes our glory. So now once we have that experience in dealing with whatever that problem was, now we can share that. That's our strength. That's our go-to. We can grab other guys and go, hey, I went through the same thing. I went through, whatever, my wound, my mom, my dad, whatever. Yeah. I was ignored. A lot of it, I was raised by the television.
Right.
Nowadays I guess nowadays and in the future they're going to be saying I was raised by social media.
Right.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
But anyway, so he's talking about the glory, and he's talking about a little bit about where strength comes from. It says, true strength does not come out of bravado. Until we are broken, our life will be self-centered, self-reliant. Our strength will be our own. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Selfish self-centeredness.
Yes.
As long as you think you're really something in and of yourself, what will you need God for? You think you're hot shit, you don't need God. I don't trust a man who hasn't suffered. I don't let a man get close to me who hasn't faced his wound. Think of the posers you know. Are they the kind of man you would call at 2 a.m. when life is collapsing around you? Not me. I don't want cliches. I want deep, soulful truth. And that only comes when a man has walked the road I've been talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we call, our guys and stuff like that, and not the dude from work.
Right.
Because we've all been through it, and we
Right.
know we have, and we know each other's stories and ups and downs, and
Right.
we get strength from that.
That's a good question, because I hear once in a while people, well, I'll state that, I talk to 2 or 3 alcoholics every day.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you notice, I'm either calling the ones that I know I can count on,
Right.
or the ones that they know they can count on me.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my selection. I hear a few times people are like, "Well, how come you don't ever call me?" It's like, because you're not the one I'm going to call at 2 a.m.
Right.
When my ass is on fire, you're not the one I'm going to call.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to call on people and stay in those people's lives as much as possible, because
Yeah.
I need that.
Yeah.
I need that.
Somebody who's got that experience.
Absolutely.
We already read this stubborn part. Let's be independent. But anyway, that's kind of what I was thinking about, and where I was going with that is, the wound and stuff. It's our steps and our program handle a lot of it, but I think for men specifically, we need to really focus on this for a little bit if it's obvious that somebody's not past it.
Right. I
A
agree.
lot of the guys we get, eventually they're so beaten down, they're not posing anything. They're like,
Right.
I don't know what I got to do.
Right.
Yeah, so they're in the solution.
Absolutely. And the good thing about that specific book, out there, if you have young boys, before the age of 11, 12 years old, this is a good book to read if you're a mother or a father.
Yeah.
If you're a single mom, read it, because it will teach you that, the deal with young boys is different from dealing from young girls.
It's a lot different.
It's a whole different ball game. In fact, there is another book that John Eldredge's wife, I believe Stacy Eldredge, wrote, and it's called Captivating.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very similar message, but it's more on the
more from the women's point of view.
Right. Yeah. And but this one here, it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. If you have young boys, this is a good book to read. Learning how to deal and not always say no.
Right.
Right. Encourage them to climb the stairs and
right.
Jump on the beds and do those crazy things that boys do, because that's how they're going to learn, and that's how they start finding out, do they have what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. I know you have young grandchildren, but I remember when my boys were young, they were born with the idea that they have enough because their father's there.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I could be laying down on the ground and they could jump, stand up on the edge of the couch, and I would say jump, and before I could finish the word jump, they're already,
wow. Yeah.
Now you put that young boy 20 years, 30 years down the road, standing on a cliff, and I say jump, they're like, well, ooh, well, you have insurance, what's the backup plan here,
Yeah.
It's all philosophical and all this shit that happens. They've lost that wild at heart.
Yeah.
They lost it, Okay, let's jump.
Yeah, Vance hasn't lost it.
Not yet.
Vance, you go, think we should jump? Where'd you go?
Right. Absolutely.
He's gone already.
So that's what we're trying to get back to. And man, it is. I'm not saying that you quit your job if you're behind a desk or anything like that. If that's, but don't let that be your means. That's just a way to pay your way to go live. I think I talked about it last time about my father-in-law. He didn't work to work. He worked so he could go enjoy life.
Right.
So he could go hunting and buy new this and go do that and go experience these all new adventures. So, but at the end of the day, we weren't born to sit down all day and crunch numbers and do that. We were born to climb trees and run through, the forest and watch a shit. I don't know if I told you this weekend. This is craziness. I actually witnessed a deer eat a bird.
Is that you? I thought that was Russell. That was you that said that?
Right from here to the camera.
Where were you at?
Canyon
Lake?
Lakes.
Yeah.
And there's a little spot where my wife's friend has this little Airbnb, and we went up there for our wedding anniversary, and all these deer come up. And they're all bucks, right? Just these big old, they're Texas deer, so they're bucks though. Anyway, okay. So they all come up, and my wife is actually feeding them by hand. That's how docile these deer are. Right. But they're still wild.
Yeah. And
this little baby bird fell out of a tree, and my wife was like, "Don't you think about it?" Because the deer walked right over to her, started like moving the baby bird. The baby bird's jumping around, and sure enough, the deer just grabbed it and swallowed it.
Really?
For real. My wife was throwing carrots at the deer. And the deer went back to the corn pile where my wife had it, started eating. My wife was like, "Oh, you're still hungry?"
Yeah.
But, it's
I didn't know deer eat.
Yeah, I looked it up. Like it's not a common thing.
Right.
But if they're missing nutrients, if they're...
I know they seek protein.
They seek that stuff. Yeah. And they take it. It's an opportunity. They eat squirrels and rabbits and birds, whatever they can get a hold of.
Little critters they can catch.
Yep, that's what they do.
And this
up in Canyon Lakes, it is. I was explaining to my wife, it's kind of sad because the reason why we have hunting season, right? It's not just so we can get venison, right? Deer populations can get overpopulated. They're almost like rats.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not saying, but they can. They can carry diseases because they're malnutrition. They get injured, whatever, and all this stuff. And these herds get big enough to where now there's no food. There's not enough food. And I guarantee you, the alphas are eating all the food.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones are not getting enough food, right? So now they're walking around starving to death. They start getting diseases. They're sick, making the herd grow sicker. And then all of a sudden, they come into contact with humans because they're so close. Now the humans are getting sick. So that's why we have deer hunting season at specific times to be the most humane, to allow them to breed, to allow them to do their stuff. And we're only supposed to hit or go after the ones that, are ready to be taken if you do it properly, right? It's not always about the biggest buck. It's about the one that's ready to go, right? And it's quick and it's humane, and you keep the herd down so then they all live a fulfilled life, right? That's just how it works.
Mm-hmm. So, Amy wasn't digging that?
No, she gets it.
Oh, okay. And
she saw a lot of the deer out there that were very malnourished. You could see their ribs. Some of them, they had a lot of, diseases on their skin and their furs and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked pretty. And it's just because this housing area, they don't clean up after them. They don't take care of it.
Well, I would have thought, I just drove to Austin this last weekend, but it was so green. We've had some rain even before the storm. We've had a fair amount of rain this year. Everything was so green. I was shocked how green it was.
Right.
I would have thought there'd be more stuff out there for them to eat.
Not in Canyon Lakes.
Yeah.
Well, they're going through a drought right now.
Yeah.
The lake's like super low.
Yeah. Well, the Guadalupe River was low. We just were there and it was low. So I know this canyon, and I think a lot of that has to do with Canyon Lake.
Yep. It's very, very low right now. Yeah. So, but back to what I was saying is just getting out there in the wilderness, living the life and just living. That's the most important thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was, like I said, I've been camping a lot this summer. And that's one of the big things about it is you get back to real simple
Mhm.
You know, you have to make a bed. You have to pitch a
Right.
tent. You have to,
Oh,
you know, however
I
you
can
do.
pitch a tent.
Oh yeah, I always do it in the dark. I don't. I did one 2 weeks ago when we got to Guadalupe State Park. It's probably the first tent I set up in the daylight.
Oh, you're actually talking about tents.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
pitching a tent.
Pitching a tent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, honest. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that one.
Yeah, but you had a fan in your tent.
Yeah.
That doesn't count.
Yeah.
You get
Well,
marked out.
it's 90 degrees at night. It counts.
Oh, that's the
It
greatest.
counts a lot.
Yeah.
It was.
When
It
you
was
feel that
hot.
sweat trickle.
Yeah, it goes in your ear.
Yeah.
That's
It's
bullshit.
the greatest feel.
That's bullshit. Especially after this hurricane and no power and all that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so anyway, that's pretty much what I got. What I was thinking about.
Okay.
I don't know if you got anything you want to add or.
No, I just think if any of you are out there, slowly dying of quiet desperation,
Right.
pick up the book Wild at Heart. Reach out to some brothers and sisters that that will hold you accountable and start doing something a little different.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
somebody who's been through some stuff.
Yeah, grab a hold of somebody.
Yeah.
Do something different.
That's it. That's all I got.
That's all I got to.
Okay, well.
I do want to say, I think what we should do is have maybe on our next one or down the road, I would like to do the 3 desires of a man and a woman from that book.
Okay. We'll do it next week.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity. I mean, I've been doing it for at least 6 years now. It's a to-do list. It's check 1, check 2, check 3
Mm-hmm.
on how I'm supposed, because it's not just about learning my desires, but if you have a partner, learning your wife or your husband's desires.
Right.
And I think that's even more important in a relationship.
Right. Learning what makes them work. And,
Right?
Yeah.
Because,
sure.
I mean, you can only do your part. So if you're meeting their desires, it's only going to free them and hopefully give them the opportunity to want to understand and learn your desires.
Okay.
So
All right.
I think it'd be a good section.
Okay. Well, maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe.
Sounds good.
If you're still around. So
Okay. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
I don't know either. You only got today, brother.
That's it. That's true.
One day at a time.
Actually, Rogan just interviewed a guy. Oh, my phone's over there. Who died, or he basically died and then was brought back to life. And
Oh yeah.
he was an atheist.
Okay.
And
Is he still an atheist?
Still an atheist.
Okay.
Went through it, saw the bright light. He talks about his dad came to him, like dead people come to greet you and take
And
his
he's still an
dad came,
atheist.
and he's still an atheist. He was mad that his dad showed up. He's like, "What are you doing here? I'm living. You're dead. Go away. Leave me.
Right.
I don't want to go where you are. I got a family and stuff."
Okay.
So that's what he said he expressed during the.
Interesting.
I don't know, but anyway, thought
Okay.
interesting.
Well, I saw a joke the other day. It said
Oh,
atheism. No, this is a good one.
Okay.
It says atheism, a non-profit organization.
Oh yeah.
Get it?
I get it. I get it. It's all in the spelling.
See, that wasn't bad.
That was pretty good.
You were holding your breath, weren't you?
I was.
I haven't said a good joke for a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with a good one next time.
All right.
All right, that's all we got.
That's all we got. We'll see y'all next week.
All right, peace out.
Peace out.